The air in my kitchen is thick with the good smells of garlic, rosemary, and roasting chicken, a symphony of familiarity that usually settles my soul. Laughter rings out from the dining room, bouncing off the walls that have witnessed so much of our lives. It is a perfect picture, the kind I have worked for my entire life. A family, whole and happy, gathered around my table. But tonight, something is off. There is a dissonant note in the harmony, a faint crack in the foundation of my world, and I am the only one who seems to hear it. I stand at the stove, stirring the creamy mashed potatoes, and watch them through the arched doorway. My son Marcus, even from behind, I can see the strong set of his shoulders, the easy way he carries himself that still makes my heart swell with a pride so fierce it is almost painful. He is leaning over, saying something to his younger cousin that makes her shriek with laughter. That is my Marcus, the sun around which our little universe has always rotated. He is a success in every way that matters, not just in his career, but in his spirit. Kind-hearted, responsible, the man I raised him to be. And then there is Keisha. She sits beside him, her posture perfectly graceful, a small, polite smile gracing her lips. She is beautiful, there is no denying that, with her elegant features and eyes that see everything. But she is a closed book. 6 months into their marriage, and I still feel I am meeting a pleasant stranger each time we are together. She says all the right things. The chicken smells amazing, Sharon. Can I help you with anything, Sharon? But it is a script. There is no warmth behind the words, no genuine reach for connection. I want to love her. I truly do. For Marcus's sake, I try. But every interaction feels like walking on a floor of thin glass. Mom, are you hoarding the potatoes in there? Marcus calls out, twisting in his chair to grin at me. His smile, so like his father's, still has the power to disarm me completely. I am making sure they are perfect for you, my love, I call back, my voice perhaps a little too bright. You cannot rush perfection. Spoken like a true matriarch, my sister Carol chimes in from the table, raising her wine glass in a playful toast. The room feels warm, full, alive. This is what I have always wanted for him. This security. This joy. So why does a cold dread cling to the edges of my heart? We finally sit down to eat, the table groaning with food. The conversation flows easily, a river of shared history and gentle teasing. I watch Marcus, as I always do, soaking in the sight of him relaxed and happy. He tells a story about a difficult client at work, his hands animating the tale, and everyone listens, captivated. He has always had that gift. But then, as the laughter subsides, Carol asks the question that inevitably comes. So, what are you two lovebirds up to this weekend? Anything exciting? It is a simple question, an innocuous one, but I see it happen, a almost imperceptible tightening in Marcus's jaw. A quick, sideways glance at Keisha. It is so fast, so subtle that if I were not his mother, I would have missed it. Keisha's polite smile does not waver, but her eyes meet his, and a silent message passes between them. A decision is made in that fleeting look. Oh, not too much, Marcus says, his voice a little too casual as he turns back to Carol. He picks up his fork and pushes a piece of chicken around his plate. I think we are just going to take it easy, maybe catch a movie, nothing set in stone. Lies, they are gentle lies, polite lies, but lies nonetheless. I know my son. I know the rhythm of his speech, the cadence of his honesty. When he is telling the truth, his voice is open, his eyes hold yours. This was evasive. This was a deflection. For 28 years, I have been the one he made plans with. Friday night dinners, Saturday morning yard sales, Sunday phone calls that lasted for hours. His voice was never like that when he talked about our plans. It was eager. It was certain. The conversation moves on, but I am stuck in that moment. The bite of chicken in my mouth turns to ash. I look at Keisha, who is now complimenting Carol on her earrings, her demeanor perfectly calm. Is this her doing, this new distance? Is she gently, systematically, unpicking the threads that bind him to me? The thought is a sharp, cold needle in my heart. I want to believe it is just the natural adjustment of marriage. I want to believe that I am just a sentimental old woman, struggling to let go. But the bond between Marcus and me is not an ordinary one. It was forged in fire. My mind drifts back, as it often does, to a different kitchen. A smaller, colder one. A late night, me scrubbing grease from a fryer at a diner, my back aching, counting the minutes until I could collapse into bed. Marcus, just 10 years old, would be at that very kitchen table, his school books spread out, determined to stay awake until I got home. He would have a peanut butter sandwich waiting for me on a plate. I made it myself, Mom, he would say, his small face serious. We were a team. We were a fortress of two against the world. Through my exhaustion, through his loneliness, we had each other. Every scraped knee, every teenage heartbreak, every college application anxiety, we faced it together. His successes were my triumphs. His pain was my agony. That history is not just memory, it is the bedrock of who I am, who we are. And now, it feels as though that bedrock is shifting. Not with a quake, but with a slow, quiet erosion. Each canceled Sunday phone call, each "we are busy" text message, each hesitant glance across a dinner table feels like a tiny scoop of earth being taken away from beneath my feet. He is not pulling away angrily. It is worse than that. It is a gentle drifting, a quiet reorientation of his world where I am no longer at the center. Where Keisha has taken that place, and I have been moved to the periphery. The rest of the dinner passes in a blur for me. I nod and smile, I pour more wine, I offer second helpings, all on autopilot. Inside, I am reeling. I am that young mother again, staring at the silent telephone, willing it to ring with his voice. The vibrant noise of my family feels distant, muffled, as if I am listening to it from underwater. Finally, the evening winds down. There are hugs and promises to do it again soon. At the door, Marcus envelops me in a strong hug. He smells of his same cologne, feels like my same boy. "Thanks for dinner, Mom," he murmurs into my hair. "It was great, as always." I cling to him for a second longer than is necessary, breathing him in. "Anytime, baby, you know that. My door is always open." He pulls back, his hands on my shoulders, his smile warm but I notice now a little weary. I know. Keisha steps forward for her obligatory hug. It is brief and light. "Thank you, Sharon. Everything was delicious." "You are welcome, Keisha. Drive safely." I stand in the doorway, the night air cool on my skin, and watch them walk to their car. They do not hold hands. They walk slightly apart. But just before Marcus opens the passenger door for her, he says something I cannot hear. She looks up at him, and in the glow of the streetlight, I see her smile. It is not the polite, reserved smile from dinner. It is a real, private, intimate smile just for him, and he leans in as if drawn by a magnet and kisses her forehead. It is a simple, loving gesture. The kind of gesture a mother should be happy to see. But as I watch them drive away, their tail lights disappearing into the dark, that small, tender moment does not warm me. It freezes me, because it confirms everything I have feared. Their world is complete in itself. They have a language I do not speak, a private country to which I have no passport. I close the door slowly, the click of the latch echoing in the sudden silence of the house. The laughter and chatter are gone, replaced by the hum of the refrigerator. The vibrant family dinner is over, and I am left alone with the chilling certainty that the slow erosion of my world has only just begun, and the deepest crack in its foundation is the woman my son now calls his wife. The silence in the house had become a physical thing, a heavy blanket that smothered all the familiar, comforting sounds. It had been 3 weeks since Marcus's birthday dinner, 3 weeks since the excuses had started to sound like static on a dying radio signal. I tried to convince myself it was just a busy season at his firm, that Keisha was swamped with her interior design projects. But the hollow feeling in my chest, the one that ached like a bad tooth, knew better. It was a mother's intuition, a primal alarm that could not be switched off. I found myself wandering into his old room, a museum of a life that felt increasingly out of reach. The high school basketball trophies were still dusty on the shelf, the faded poster of a band he no longer listened to was still tacked to the wall. And on the desk, like a relic from another age, was his old college laptop. He had left it behind when he upgraded, saying I could use it for storage or recipes. I had not touched it in years. On a whim, a desperate need to feel some connection to him, I lifted the lid. The screen glowed to life, asking for a password I did not know. I tried his childhood pet's name, his high school graduation year, and on the third try, the name of his first car. The desktop bloomed into view, a background photo of a sunset I did not recognize. My eyes were drawn instantly to a folder icon labeled Family Photos. I clicked it, and my breath caught. It was a live stream, synced to his current account. There they were, pictures from a hiking trip 2 weekends ago, a dinner at a fancy restaurant I had never seen, Keisha laughing on their new balcony. Each image was a tiny, pixelated dagger. He was living a full, vibrant life, and I was not in it. I was about to close the laptop, the pain too sharp, when a notification popped up in the corner. Note updated, boundaries. My heart gave a funny little stutter. Boundaries? It sounded so clinical, so final. With a trembling finger, I clicked on the icon for the notes application. There it was, shared between Marcus A. and Keisha J. The title alone felt like a verdict. I began to read, and the world began to dissolve around me. It was written in Keisha's voice, crisp and analytical. She outlined a strategy for managing familial stress. The words were polite, even diplomatic at first, speaking of different communication styles and personal needs for space. But then they sharpened. I feel constantly judged by Sharon, one-line read. Her questions are not questions, they are critiques. Her offers of help feel like invasions. I cannot breathe when she is around. It makes me profoundly anxious. The air left my lungs. Judged, I had only ever wanted to be helpful, to be involved. Was my love really so heavy, so suffocating? My vision blurred, but I forced myself to keep reading, down to the final, devastating sentence. For my mental well-being and the health of our relationship, I need you to limit contact with your mother to holidays only. No unscheduled visits. No weekly calls. We need a wall, Marcus. And below it, my son's response. Just 2 lines. 2 lines that shattered my entire understanding of the last 6 months of our entire relationship. Okay, baby, whatever you need. Okay, baby, whatever you need. It was not a discussion. It was not a reluctant compromise. It was a swift, simple agreement. He had signed the order for my exile with the casual ease of someone confirming a dinner reservation. The screen swam before my eyes. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead, a nausea churning in my gut. The deliberate exclusion, the planned distance, it was not my imagination. It was policy. I was a problem to be managed, a nuisance to be contained to specific calendar dates. The love I had poured into that boy, for 30 years, had been reduced to a negotiable item in a document titled Boundaries. I do not know how long I sat there, staring at those words until they lost all meaning, becoming just black shapes on a white screen. The shock was a physical blow, leaving me numb and hollow. When I finally moved, it was like pushing through water. I closed the laptop with a soft click that echoed in the silent room. I walked to the kitchen, my legs unsteady, and picked up the phone. My fingers, cold and clumsy, dialed the only number I could think of. My sister Carol answered on the second ring. Sharon, hey, everything all right? You sound funny. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. A strangled sob escaped instead. Sharon, talk to me. What is it? Her voice was instantly sharp with concern. Carol, I managed, the name crumbling into another wave of tears. It is Marcus. What happened? Is he hurt? I could hear the panic rising in her voice. No, he is not hurt. I took a ragged breath, trying to form the unspeakable into words. I saw a note, a shared note on his old laptop. What note? Sharon, you are scaring me. It was from Keisha to Marcus. It was called Boundaries. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. I relayed the contents in a broken monotone, the phrases that had been branded onto my soul. The judgment, the suffocation, the anxiety. And then I told her about Marcus's reply. He agreed, Carol. He just said, okay, baby, whatever you need. He agreed to shut me out. He chose. There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. Then a low, simmering anger I knew well. He did what? Carol's voice was dangerously quiet. Let me get this straight. That woman writes a memo about how your love is a burden, and your son, the son you raised on your own after Michael died, your son tells her it is a fantastic idea. Carol, please. No, Sharon, this is not okay. This is betrayal. I cannot believe he would do this to you, after everything. I could hear her pace, her footsteps a furious tattoo against her kitchen floor. He does not get to do this. He does not get to throw you away like last week's garbage because his girlfriend has a list of demands. What can I do? I whispered, feeling small and utterly defeated. If I say anything, I am just proving her point. I am the anxious, overbearing mother. You do not do anything, Carol said, her tone shifting into something hard and decisive. I am going to do it. He needs to hear this from someone who is not afraid to tell him what a colossal mistake he is making. Carol, no, you will only make it worse. It cannot get much worse, Sharon. You are banned from your own son's life except for Christmas and Thanksgiving. I do not think so. I am calling him. Right now. Please do not. But the line was already dead. She had hung up. I stood there, clutching the silent phone to my chest, the weight of what was about to happen crashing down on me. The discovery had been a private earthquake, collapsing the foundations of my heart. But Carol's anger was the tsunami that was about to make the destruction public and final. I sank into a chair at the kitchen table, waiting for the world to end, the silence in the house now feeling not just heavy, but predatory. I had just handed my sister a lit match, and I could already smell the smoke. The silence in my living room was a physical thing, heavy and thick, broken only by the frantic ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. It was the clock my father had given me, a solid, dependable piece that had marked every significant moment of my life. Now, it seemed to be counting down to an explosion. Marcus sat across from me on the edge of the sofa, his posture rigid, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white islands in a sea of strained skin. He had asked to come over, his voice on the phone a low, strained thing I barely recognized. I had agreed, my own heart a trapped bird beating against my ribs. He did not look at me. His gaze was fixed on a point somewhere beyond my shoulder, perhaps on the family portrait hanging on the wall behind me, a relic from a time when our smiles were not so carefully constructed. I studied my son, the man he had become. I saw the shadow of the little boy who used to climb into my lap after a nightmare, but that boy was buried under layers of a new, unsettling tension. "Say what you came to say, Marcus," I finally said, my voice quieter than I intended. It was not an invitation, it was a demand. The waiting was a torture. He flinched as if my words had physical weight. He dragged a hand down his face, and when he finally met my eyes, his were swimming with a misery so profound it stole my breath. "Mom," he began, then stopped, shaking his head. "I do not know how to, I have made a mess of everything." "You have not spoken to me in 6 weeks," I stated, the words cold and hard. "You canceled our Sunday dinner. You did not return my calls. Your wife has become a ghost. I think I deserve more than an admission of a mess." His defensiveness surfaced instantly, a shield against my accusation. "You think I wanted this? You think I enjoyed this? Every day has been hell. But I had to protect my marriage, Mom. I had to." The word protect landed like a blow. Protect it from what? From me? The question hung in the air, charged and dangerous. "It is not about you, not in the way you think," he said, his voice rising. "It is about Keisha. It is about her anxiety. It is a real debilitating thing. She cannot help it." He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, pleading for me to understand something he himself seemed to barely grasp. Her childhood, her family, it was nothing like ours. It was fractured. There was no stability, no safety. She has spent her whole life waiting for the other shoe to drop, and she sees the closeness we have as a threat. I listened, my heart hardening with each word. "A threat," I repeated, the taste of the word bitter. "How is my love for my son a threat to your wife?" "Because she thinks it is a competition," he exploded, standing up and pacing the small space between the sofa and the fireplace. "She feels that my loyalty is divided, that when a crisis comes, I will choose you. She needs to know she comes first. She needs to feel secure. And your constant presence, our weekly traditions, it makes her feel like she is an outsider in her own family." The air left my lungs. "My constant presence," I whispered. For 28 years, I had defined myself as his mother. I had been the constant. Now it was a fault. So her solution and yours was to simply erase me, to cut me out without a single conversation, to treat me like a problem to be managed. He stopped his pacing, his back to me, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "She asked me to create some distance. She was in a bad place, Mom. You did not see her. The panic attacks, the sleepless nights. She said she could not breathe with the pressure she felt from our relationship. I thought if I just did what she asked, it would get better. I thought it would be temporary. I thought I was fixing it." And there it was, the heart of the devastation. It was not Keisha's request that shattered me. It was a woman grappling with her own demons, and I could find a thread of pity for that. No, the betrayal was a colder, sharper thing. I stood up, my own legs trembling. "You thought you were fixing it," I said, my voice low and trembling with a fury I had never before directed at my child. "By lying to me, by disappearing, by making a decision about our relationship, a relationship that has existed since the day you were born, without the basic decency of talking to me. You did not trust me enough to tell me your wife was struggling. You did not respect me enough to include me in a decision that would break my heart. You treated me like a child, Marcus, or worse, like an adversary. Tears were streaming down his face now, unchecked. "I am so sorry. I did not know what else to do. I was trying to protect her. I was trying to hold my marriage together." "And what about me?" The question was a raw, wounded sound. Who was protecting our bond? Who was holding us together? You were so busy being her husband that you forgot how to be my son. The words hung in the air, brutal and final. He crumpled back onto the sofa, his head in his hands. "I am still your son," he choked out. "I will always be your son." "But it is different now," I said, and I felt a terrifying clarity wash over me. The grief was still there, a vast, cold ocean inside me, but on its surface was a new, steady resolve. "I love you, Marcus. That will never change, but I will not be a secret. I will not be a variable in your wife's emotional equation to be added or subtracted as needed. I am your mother, and I deserve respect." I walked over to the window, looking out at the quiet street. If Keisha has a problem with me, she can speak to me. If you have a concern about our relationship, you will speak to me. There will be no more unilateral decisions. There will be no more silent treatments. That is my boundary. That is non-negotiable. The silence that followed was different. The tension had not vanished, but it had shifted, solidified into a new, painful shape. After a long moment, I heard him stand. He came to stand beside me, not touching, but present. "I will talk to Keisha," he said quietly. I will tell her we spoke, that this cannot continue like this." I simply nodded, my eyes still fixed on the world outside. The reckoning was over. We had not fixed anything. We had merely drawn a new map of our world, with borders where there had been none. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Keisha. Her voice was thin, hesitant. She asked if she could come over alone. I agreed, my heart thudding dully. When she arrived, she looked pale and nervous, clutching her purse like a lifeline. We sat in the same living room, the ghost of my confrontation with Marcus hovering between us. "I am sorry," she began, and for the first time I heard genuine remorse, not just anxiety. "I handled this poorly. My fears, they are not an excuse for what we did to you." The conversation was stilted, fragile. We spoke in circles around the truth, two wounded animals unsure if the other would bite. She spoke of her mother, of a childhood spent navigating eggshells, of a deep-seated terror of abandonment that she had projected onto me. I listened, and I told her that while I understood fear, I would not accept being punished for it. It was the most honest exchange we had ever had. There was no hug, no tearful reconciliation. It was a truce, negotiated on a battlefield of hurt feelings. After that, everything changed. Our family gatherings did become more formal, less frequent. Sunday dinners were replaced by scheduled monthly brunches at a neutral restaurant. The easy laughter was gone, replaced by polite conversation. The intimacy was a ghost, a memory we all politely ignored. Marcus's loyalty had shifted, irrevocably. I saw it in the careful way he navigated conversations, in the new distance in his embrace. It was a permanent scar. But in its place was something else, something harder and perhaps more durable, a hard-won respect. They treated me with a new caution, and I learned to wear my independence like armor. I filled my days with friends, with projects, with a life that was mine alone. The story of our family had been rewritten, the final chapter a quiet, aching acceptance. Yet, as I set the table for one on a Sunday evening, the silence felt different. It was not an emptiness, but a space I had claimed for myself. And as I looked at the empty chair where my son used to sit, I knew the change was permanent, but the story was not over. The quiet of the house was broken by the ringing of the phone, and a voice I had not heard in years asked a question that would unravel the fragile peace I had fought so hard to build.